welcome to part 1 of my 10 cards, 1 kit featuring the Hero Arts January 2018 card kit. So for card 1, I have a card base here made from the pearlized cardstock, Stardream cardstock I think it is, and I'm just going to trim off about an inch off one of the sides, and I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to use that for my sentiment later on. Okay, then I'm just going to lay those two things aside, and I'm going to take out this paper that it's like almost like a fabric. It kind of reminds me of the mulberry paper that I used ages ago in scrapbooking. So I used my stitched rectangle die from Lawn Fawn to cut out a panel, and then I'm going to trim off one of the edges of that, and I'm just figuring out where I need to cut. So I'll bring up my paper trimmer again, and I'm not sure why I put the arm out there. I didn't need it, but I'll do it every time, you'll see. Just a habit, I guess. So this frayed a little bit when I cut it, so you need to be careful of that if you're using this. And then I'm just going to take a piece of fun foam and taking the same stitched rectangle die, and I'm just going to trace around the inside of the die with a pencil. And this is just going to allow me to cut out the correct size fun foam I need for the panel that I have. And I do have to trim off some of that also, since I did cut the panel down as well. But I just wanted to get a general idea. And at first I was going to use the other piece to pop up the little strip, but I decided against that later. So anyway, I'm just measuring to see how much I need to cut off and mark that. And I just trim that out with my scissors, just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now I'm jumping to my sentiment. I'm not sure why I'm jumping all over the place here, but I stamped on the little strip of the pearlized cardstock, I used some VersaFine Crimson Red ink, and I'm just using some clear embossing powder, and I'll just heat that up with my heat tool. And then I'm going to use another of the stitch rectangle dies from Lawn Fawn, and I'll run that through my little Sidekick to cut that out. And then carefully remove the tape. And the sentiment I used was Sending Love. Set that aside. And then I'm just going to take some, what did I use for this? Some score tape. I think I decided to use score tape because I wasn't sure how other adhesives would work with this paper, the pattern paper there. I should adhere that down. And then, what do I do? I add score tape to the fun foam. And then I'll just adhere that down to the panel there. And now I'm taking a piece of the ribbon that held the kit together, and I'm just going to add some more score tape to the back of this panel. I cut a lot of this out because I think I was off camera placing the ribbon, so you'll see it's there in place. And then I just place the fun foam down. Then I'll apply some more fun foam to the back. I find this works really well to adhere fun foam to stuff because it's such a strong adhesive. And then I'm just going to work this around, trying to figure out exactly the placement that I want. And also in all the process of this, I did realize that my floral paper was upside down. But by then it was too late to do anything about it. So I think it turned out fine anyway. And just going to use some more score tape for this little strip and adhere that to the side. And I think it turned out really pretty. It appears just like it's a continuous panel there until you do open the card, and it's really neat, I think. So then I just tie a little bow, or tie the ribbon there. It's not really a bow, but it makes it appear to be a bow. It's a faux bow. Okay, then I'm going to add some of this little sequins from the kit. Just use some glossy accents to do that. And that is card number 1. Card number 2, I'm going to use some of the packaging from the kit. It's just too pretty to waste. So I took my Stitch Rectangle die again. It's one of my most used dies. I use it all the time. And I just run that through my Big Shot. Well, wait a minute. Nope. I had to trim off the edge so I could run it through my Big Shot. And I just lay that aside. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. And I'm just using some white cardstock. And I'm using the, what did I use? The Mulled Wine ink, I think it was. And then I'm taking the second layer to this stamp. And I'm using my anti-static powder tool here because I'm going to emboss. And then I'm just going to use my Versamark ink to ink that stamp up. And I do it twice just to make sure I've got a good coverage there. Then I'm going to use this pink embossing powder that came in the kit. I just apply that generously, trying to get all the areas covered. Tap off all the extra. Look for any spots that I missed. Okay, put that back in the jar. And then I'm going to melt the embossing powder. And I think it turned out really pretty. I always have trouble with color embossing powder for some reason, but this did okay. So that's that. It's very shimmery and pretty. And I'm just going to cut that out with another of the Stitch Rectangle dies. Run that through my Big Shot off camera. And just adhere the sentiment down with my ATG. I miss using my ATG. I've had it forever, but lately I've been using just like the little small tape runners. And I really need to get some refills for this because I'm about out and I forgot how much I enjoyed using it. And then I'm just going to adhere that panel down, and then I think I apply some sequins from the kit as well. And I do that with Glossy Accents. And I've heard some other people talking about they had difficulty using this kit. And I will say too that I was a little reluctant to even try to do 10 cards with this, simply because it was very limiting. The stamp set, I love the stamp set and the dies, but as far as other stuff in the kit, there were no pattern papers or cardstock, so I ended up having to bring in some of my own supplies, like to make the card bases and all of that. But after I got started, I actually enjoyed the challenge. So I did make 10 cards, and I'm just going to do this in 2 parts so the video isn't so long. But anyway, on to card number, what are we on? Number 3. I just cut out a scalloped heart using a Darice die. And then I used the die from the kit to cut out that pretty intricate heart there. Very pretty. What would you call that? Filigree, I guess is what you would call it. And I'm just using my Zig glue pen to adhere that to the white heart that I cut out. And then I'm just going to, I think I used my ATG to just adhere that to the card base. And I just used some navy cardstock that I had in my stash for that. Oh, excuse me. And then I take a piece of the pearlized cardstock. This is like the lilac color, really pale purple color. And I'm just placing my sentiment where I want it because I'm going to cut it out with that die. And I just want to make sure I have it in the right position. And originally, you can see I tried to ink that up with the navy ink, and it smeared all over that cardstock. So that was just not going to work. So I ended up stamping it with some Versamark and then heat embossing it with silver embossing powder. So I think that turned out really pretty. I'm kind of glad the navy didn't work. So I'm just going to cut that out with the smaller scallop die from Darice. And I ran that through my Sidekick. And just going to pop this up with some foam dots. And I was going to leave it at that. After I put this down, I was going to leave it at that. And then it needed something else. It seemed so bare on that other corner. So I cut out another little heart with some more of the pearlized cardstock. And that's it for card number 3. For card number 4, okay, I think I used the love sentiment again. But I had cut out 2 little triangles from the pearlized lilac paper. I'm going to call it lilac. I'm not really sure what color they call it, but that's what I'm going to call it. And I put those corners down just to see where I needed to stamp my sentiment. And let's see, I use I think it's Passion Flower is the color of ink, and stamp that. Ink that up again to make sure I have a good impression. And then I'm going to take the layering stamp. And that is what is so good about having a stamp platform. It makes this kind of thing so much easier. And then I'm just going to ink that up with the navy ink. And I think that turned out so pretty. I love those 2 colors together. And then I'm just going to adhere the little triangles using my ATG. I think I did. I wasn't paying attention, but I think that's what I put on there. And anytime I'm missing something, you miss me doing something, it's probably because I was off camera and I cut out that footage because there's no sense in leaving that in there. Like right here where I cut out these little filigree corners. And I'm just going to adhere those down. This is one of the dies that came in the kit, so I'm just going to adhere those down with my Zig glue pen again. And then I'm going to take some little white sequins from my stash and apply those using some glossy accents. And that will do it for card number 4. Okay, card number 5. I once again used the love sentiment. Like I said, it was very limiting. So you did have to repeat the things that you use, but I tried to do different techniques and, just to make them different, to appear different. But so I'm taking the love sentiment and I'm just going to use the 1 layer this time. And I'm stamping it with some Versamark ink. I'm going to heat emboss this. And I do it 3 times. And I'm going to emboss it with some white embossing powder. And I think I forgot to use my anti-static powder tool, but it turned out okay. And I just melt the embossing powder with my heat tool. And then I'm going to take my Distress Oxide ink in Picked Raspberry, and I'm just going to go over these embossed words with that ink, just do some blending. And this took forever, so I really sped this up. Super quick. And then I'm just spritz it with a little bit of water. I don't know if I think I even cut that out. Oh, no, wait a minute. I go over the words with a paper towel to remove the ink from the words. And then I spritz it with a little bit of water. And I kind of got too much, so I'm drying that a little bit. It curled up a little bit, but I straightened that out. And then I'm just going to trim it down some. And then I'm going to take a card base. It's like a pretty peach color. More cardstock from my stash. And using my ATG again to adhere that down. And then I'm just going to take, these little pearls that were a freebie that came with the kit this month. So I ended up cutting the second one down to divide that up into 2 separate sections. So here's another look at the first 5 cards from the kit, and as always, I'll add photos to my Facebook page if you'd like to head over there and check those out. I'll leave a link below. And here are 2 more videos you might like to watch. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe by clicking on my picture or on the red subscribe box below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.